The 1990s was a golden era for mad cars. Racing cars had always been pretty mad. For as long as the incentive has existed to create the fastest car possible, people with the engineering knowledge, skill, and a little sprinkle of madness set about building vehicles that can really only be described as nuts. But the 90s saw the rise of a very specific kind of race car. The European endurance racing scene was seeing the collapse of Group C, the craziest prototype racing series to date. In its place was left standing GT. GT cars were different. To try and curb the ridiculousness that led to spiraling costs in the prototype days, GT cars had to be based on road legal cars. Road car based racing was of course nothing new, but it had never before found itself as the pinnacle of the sport. The thinking was that this would tame the grid, create closer racing at a lower cost the viewers would have a closer connection to. What actually happened is that the manufacturers just homologated the madness. Today we're talking about one such car, the wonderfully strange and too often forgotten Lister Storm. After the decline of the World Sports Car Championship and its top Group C class, following the short-lived 3.5 litre V10 era, a topic for another day, the sport desperately needed to bring manufacturers back. Many moved to a startup GT series in 1994 called the BPR Global GT Series. With no other major sports car racing series running in Europe at the time, it quickly became a hit, and by 1996, the FIA had taken over the championship and renamed it the FIA GT Championship. Group C had been home to some of the fastest cars ever built, and as such, teams were looking to reuse whatever they could in GT. The only trouble was, how do you homologate Group C parts? Homologation, by the way, just means getting something approved. In this case, satisfying the sport's governing body that whatever race car a team was trying to enter satisfied the regulations of the sport, including being similar enough to a road legal car. This led to a flood of so-called homologation specials, road cars made solely for the purpose of homologating a race car. Examples include the Dauer 962, Porsche 911 GT1, and yes, the Lister Storm. Brian Lister founded his company in Cambridge in the 1950s. It operates to this day, restoring Jaguar heritage models and creating custom-tuned versions of newer Jaguar models, including the Jaguar F-Type based Lister Thunder. This association with Jaguar is key to Lister's development of its only truly bespoke car, the Storm. The Storm was a 4-seater Grand Touring car built in 1993. They only made 4 road cars, and that's because its true home was the track. Underneath its exceptionally 90s bodywork laid a monster. Mounted in the front and sending power to the rear wheels was the 7-litre V12 from the Jaguar XJR9 Group C car. The same engine that powered Jaguar to victory against Porsche at Le Mans in 1988. Needless to say, it made for quite a car. The first incarnation of a Storm race car appeared at Le Mans in 1995, in the form of the Lister Storm GTS. It competed in the GT1 class against legends such as the McLaren F1 GTR and the Jaguar XJ220S. It wasn't what you'd call good. It failed to finish, conking out with gearbox failure after 40 laps. Not a particularly impressive performance by any standard. Lister stood by the GTS for 1996, entering one solitary car into the 24 Hours of Daytona, where it was crashed at high speed, and for some reason it failed to finish. After throwing together a replacement car, or rather paying a company called G-Force to throw together a replacement car, Lister entered the Storm GTS into Le Mans 1996, where it did infinitely better than the previous year, finishing an impressive 19th place. This enormous success undoubtedly buoyed Lister, who immediately entered into the BPR Global GT series, where the car wasn't very good. It retired from 3rd place at both the Nürburgring and Suzuka circuit. By 1997, Lister realised the GTS was really slow, and with cars like the Mercedes CLK GTR entering the arena, they needed to change something if they wanted to stay, well, become competitive. The car was therefore redesigned with longer bodywork to maximise downforce and thrown into the 24 Hours of Daytona, where it finished 19th place, and a respectable 4th in its class. Later that year, it would return to the United States to compete in the final 2 rounds of the FIA GT Championship at Laguna Seca and Sebring, where it exhibited a true return to form, failing to finish both of them. Lister entrusted the GTL with their goals of success going into 1998. They re-entered into the 24 Hours of Daytona, where, to the surprise of precisely nobody, it failed to finish. At Le Mans, it managed to beat its own record. It failed to even start the race. Scrutineers weren't happy about the changes that had been made to the car and barred it from entering. They felt like the modifications that had been made to elongate the bodywork took the car too far away from the road-going counterpart. The GTL did achieve something in 1998 though. It managed 5th place in the British GT Championship, a championship that it actually went on to win the following year in 1999. Speaking of 1999, the British GT Championship was not the end for the Storm, but it was the last hurrah for the GTL variant. Lister went back to basics and reworked a GTS to create the Lister Storm GT. The Storm GT managed to tie for 5th place in the FIA GT Championship before sights were set on the 2000 season. 2000 was the best year so far for the Storm, winning both the FIA GT World Drivers and Constructors Championship. Though to give you some context, this was after the departure of Porsche and Mercedes from the competition due to the spectacular return of prototypes to Le Mans in 1999. The Storm also managed a 2nd place overall finish in the British GT Championship in 2000 before claiming its 2nd championship win in 2001. The Storm also managed 3rd and 2nd in the FIA GT Championship in 2001 and 2002 respectively. 2003 was a pivotal year for Lister. The Storm was now 10 years old and the landscape had shifted. They ran the car again in the FIA GT Championship and it managed a respectable 4th place finish, but it would be its last, as Lister had begun work on the Storm GT's successor, the Lister Storm LMP. Despite sharing a name, the Storm LMP was a completely different car, built for, unsurprisingly, the LMP1 class. Off the back of Lister's eventual GT success, and with the backing of private investment, Lister developed a new prototype car for 2003. Originally designed around a Judd V10, and with all of the hopes in the world, things didn't pan out. After the primary investor pulled out and took their money to competitors Zytec, Lister was left picking up the pieces, eventually running their brand new prototype car with a 6-litre Chevrolet V8. The car didn't make many appearances, but did manage a remarkable win in 2004 at the 6 Hours of Vallelunga. Despite efforts to bring it back as a hybrid in 2005, the Storm LMP disappeared completely after an unsuccessful 2006 season. The Lister Storm GT was a weird car, but I don't mean that in a bad way. It took time and work and reworking and modification to get the car to see success, but that's exactly what the team at Lister did. I may have joked about the car's many early failures, but by the end of its long and storied career, the Lister Storm was far from a failure, and deserves to be recognised as one of Britain's coolest and most interesting racing success stories. In my head, the Lister Storm will always be linked to the Gilles Vertigo thanks to Gran Turismo, though the Vertigo never achieved the same success despite what they might tell you. Check it out here. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and until next time, goodbye.